Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. We have a jam-packed show for you this evening. I'll be joined by two of the Darlington nurses following their landmark victory on Friday. The judge in an employment tribunal ruled that allowing a biological male into an NHS female changing room violated their dignity. Also, are Britain's classrooms being infected with anti-Semitism? Journalist Nicole Lampert and former teacher Peter Block will join me to discuss a week of crazy stories, including a shocking poll that shows that the number of schools marking Holocaust Memorial Day has halved since October 7th, 2023. We'll also be joined by friend of the channel, Baroness Fox, for the latest on protecting free speech here in the UK and in Australia. Also, will Starmer introduce a social media ban for under-16s? Did women cause woke? And is US television finally standing up to political correctness? And of course, our comedians will be answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Bethany Elsie.
Josh, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 7:01. NATO members have condemned Donald Trump's threat to impose further import tariffs unless the US is allowed to buy Greenland, saying a trade war over the territory undermines transatlantic relations. The UK and other European countries have held an emergency meeting this afternoon and released a joint statement saying the US president's demands are completely wrong and risks a dangerous downward spiral. Trump has already imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU, and that'll increase to 25% if he can't take over the Danish territory. The Shadow Home Secretary Priti Patel says the UK's position is that the future of Greenland should be up to its people and Denmark.
Number one is reiterate the strength of NATO and that alliance. That's important to our security and defence. We should speak with one voice and stand united when it comes to dealing with aggressors such as Russia, when it comes to our Arctic security. And then, of course, make the case, as always, we believe in open markets, that tariffs are completely counterproductive and it will hurt the people in America just like it would hurt the British people here.
It's reported the US administration is asking member states to pay $1 billion each if they want a seat on the international body, which will oversee the rebuilding of Gaza. 60 nations have been invited to take up a 3-year membership on Donald Trump's Board of Peace. That's an initiative aimed at resolving conflicts in the Middle East and globally. But diplomats are warning it could undermine the work of the United Nations. So far, only Hungary has accepted the invitation. It's been reported 2 Labour ministers are ready to quit over David Lammy's plans to scrap some jury trials. The Justice Secretary has faced backlash from lawyers and MPs over the proposals, which will see jury trials dropped for offences carrying a prison sentence of 3 years or less. Carl Turner, a former Shadow Attorney General who's leading a fight against the plans, told The Telegraph 2 ministers have told him they will resign if the plans go ahead. But the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, says it's the only way to tackle the backlog in courts.
At the moment, justice delayed is justice denied for too many people, and we're not prepared to allow that to stand. If Carl Turner or others want to talk about alternatives to fixing our broken criminal justice system, we will listen. We're prepared to hear them, but so far, not a single person across the political system has been prepared to grip this, and we are.
And Australian news outlets are reporting a teenage boy is fighting for his life after being attacked by a shark in Sydney Harbour. The boy, believed to be 13 years old, suffered serious leg injuries and was taken to a children's hospital. He was swimming at Shark Beach, which has since been closed, and people have been told to avoid the area. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have an update for you at 8 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. Lots to come up in the show tonight, including, will Starmer introduce a social media ban for under-16s? Did women cause woke? Are Britain's classrooms being infected with anti-Semitism? Is US TV finally standing up to political correctness? And Baroness Fox joins us as she talks about how she is standing up for free speech in the House of Lords. But now, let's get straight into our big story of the week, in what has been hailed a victory for common sense. Earlier this week, the Darlington nurses won a landmark case against their health trust after a transgender row. 8 nurses at Darlington Memorial Hospital brought a claim against County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust after a biological male who identifies as a woman was allowed to use female changing facilities. In a judgment handed down, the judge ruled that the NHS had violated the nurses' dignity and that the trust's conduct amounted to harassment. He said allowing the trans colleague to share changing facilities had created a hostile, intimidating, humiliating and degrading environment. I am delighted to say that 2 of the Darlington nurses, Bethany Hutchison and Lockey, join me now. A massive round of applause. Rightly so, because we have been following this case now for more than a year, and now the judgment has come in, and first of all, it must feel incredibly good to finally get to this point.
Yeah, it does indeed. We feel completely vindicated, and we're elated, we're delighted, yeah.
So, and Bethany, for people who haven't seen the entirety of this case, we can just do a very quick sort of summation of what happened. I believe it started in 2023. Suddenly, although the policy was enacted in 2019, but because of COVID in 2023, it became apparent that this biological male was changing in the same place as women, and gradually this kind of became aware through the rest of your unit, right?
Yeah, just a lot of conversations between people. Are you aware there's a trans person using our changing room? And people expressing their discomfort to the point that eventually Beth went and spoke to one of our managers who took it to a higher manager who said that because of the inclusivity of the NHS, there was nothing we could do about it.
This is it, because that was actually false law. Essentially, what we know from the Supreme Court is that women means biological women and always has done according to law. So they somehow, somewhere, mention no names, got this idea that women meant people also transing. And I also want to point out for anybody who isn't familiar with this story is that the man involved, biological male, he's not had any surgery. He was walking around in boxer shorts. I believe he had visible facial hair. This isn't like some people tuning in might be going, oh, this is someone who's had all the surgery and presents as a female. And that wasn't the case. This was just a guy in his boxer shorts.
That's right, yeah, who has recently got married.
And he's recently to a female. Yeah. Wow. So, and some of the things that were kind of said as well, I think, Lisa, he said to some people like, oh, haven't you got changed? Why aren't you getting changed? Which is like if I was in a male changing room and the guy said, why haven't you got changed yet 3 times to me, I'd be like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
like, that's not how people usually speak.
And that happened to our friend Karen, who has got a history of sexual abuse from being a child, which was really, really distressing for her. So, but there were a lot of incidents where people just felt uncomfortable, to the point where you sort of felt uncomfortable even walking in there, thinking, if I'm in a state of undress, is he going to walk in? You know, it just felt uncomfortable for everybody, I would say.
Yeah, and the point is that it doesn't necessarily matter whether this person presented as a female or not. This is against the law. This was you have the right as women to be able to undress in a space with only other women. So when you went to the trust and the management, you were saying that they were dismissal. I believe they even sort of said, just be kind and go to training.
Yes, so our ward manager was summoned to a meeting, and in that meeting she was told that the members of staff that had raised the concern were to be educated, they needed to broaden their mindset, compromise. There was an offer of Rose Henderson actually educating us. So
the person involved actually being the person to say, ignore my boxer shorts and my beard.
Yes.
And also, I believe he commented on someone's breasts. Again, that's not great behaviour anywhere.
No.
So you were told that this, to be re-educated. You also, I understand, were asked to change elsewhere or given that option?
So we were given our manager's old office was converted into a locker room for us, which initially we had no lockers in there. There was a chair, so we were having to just leave our clothes on the floor. It opened onto a corridor opposite a side room. So it used to be a case of you would go in there and you would sort of stand, if the door was going to open, you would kind of be ready to jump behind it, because if you were stood there in just your bra, you were kind of like, uncovered and exposed. So it was uncomfortable. Eventually, they did put some lockers in there for us, but there was only half a dozen. And for the amount of staff using it, it was nowhere near enough. But also, it wasn't... It was, because it had been an office, it was supposed to then, it needed some work doing to make it like fire safe as a changing room, and they didn't do that. And it came out in court through a bunch of emails that we read that one of our directors of nursing had said they couldn't justify spending I think it was about £9,000 on the fire safety work that needed to be done.
So they couldn't spend the £9,000 on that, but of course they could spend a huge amount of taxpayers' money on fighting this in court. Now, the thing that I don't really understand is, once the Supreme Court ruled that women means biological women, why at that point, when the law was settled, or why didn't the trust settle the case?
Yeah, we can't understand that either,
no.
Can we? I mean, for us, it's not a complex issue, is it? Sex is immutable, it's binary, and he should never have been in there anyway. And they were in breach of other regulations as well. You know, that we were entitled to have, men and women are entitled to have facilities that are for men and women. And I think it's the Workplace Act of 1992. I'm not clued up on it completely, but that was a piece of legislation that already was in place.
Yeah, and people also forget the reality of your day jobs, which is you're nurses, you're doing these incredibly long shifts, you're having to change fully into different garments. Have you been working through this entire process? Has that been, I'm imagining that's quite awkward when your bosses are essentially being taken to court.
It is, but I would just add that we've never really seen any senior management that we've been dealing with, and our ward manager has been very supportive to us. But going into work, we wouldn't be very likely to see anybody from HR or from the directors board. Very unlikely to see any of those people. So it kind of has carried on as normal to a certain extent. Obviously, we're carrying the weight of it with us, but it has kind of carried on as normal.
Which is crazy. And they haven't been. Have they been in contact with you yet?
No.
No.
They've hardly contacted.
Never.
They didn't send you flowers.
No flowers. No apology. Nothing.
No apology. I mean that because I saw a previous interview and that's what you said you really wanted from this press.
Yeah.
A year and a half. Forget the. I mean, there are two parts here. There's the initial being forced to change with a biological male and the harassment that has now been legally proven. But there's also, of course, the process of the punishment.
Yeah.
The punishment is the process. And you've had a year and a half of court, of media. What's that been like?
It's been exhausting and also all-consuming as well. You know, there's been sleepless nights, tears. Thankfully, we've had each other to sort of, and the wonderful Christian Legal Centre as well to support us. So, you know, we have managed to get through it. But there have been times where some of us have thought, is this worth it?
What about your unions?
Oh, don't get me started. So I was with Unison, and fairly early on through the process, I emailed my union rep, and I didn't get a response. And then a month or so later, I found out he was actually going to be representing Rose. So that was frustrating. But I thought, well, I was already now in the middle of it. It was a legal case by this point, so I thought, well, OK, I've got my legal team to support me. But then they refused to let us have our legal team with us in any meetings. So I was kind of left just... So that was when we formed our own union, the Darlington Nurses Union.
Incredible, your union, the Unison did that. And have you... Well, yes.
Thank you.
But it's just as baffling that that's the whole point of joining a union is to have the protection of your work rights, your sex-based rights. Unison is 75%
women,
female, and I understand that they have put out a statement since the ruling that sort of just goes on about protecting trans rights.
Yeah.
And also, after, you know, throughout our journey, throughout this whole process, we went to meet Wes Streeting, and the story of that appeared in the Mail. And the president of Unison at the time tweeted another politician pandering to these anti-trans bigots. Which my membership was cancelled the next day. And that was that. But I've paid into that union for 35 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's try and turn this into somewhat of a positive.
Yeah.
The reason the ruling is a landmark, of course, is because it now, even though this has been established in law, as we say, from the Supreme Court, but this is very, very clear to the NHS and to other employers. You better sort yourself out, basically, because you will be held legally viable. So do you think that is what... Is there any sign that the NHS are getting its act together?
There's no sign, but we're hopeful. We're really hopeful. Obviously, the HRC guidance needs to be rolled out, and we are urging the government to do that as soon as possible. Again, this is not a complex issue.
No, because it's been on the desk, I believe, for like 4 months now, and there's no reason for it to not just be put out there. Why do you... There are accusations that it's because of politics, appeasing trans activists.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, definitely.
All going on.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, I said the other day I could have had a baby in the time that it's taken them to actually, since the Supreme Court ruling, to actually implement anything.
I would have had 3. That's a little joke for people who know I've got a lot of kids.
OK.
So what happens now? You've got the ruling, you've obviously got what you wanted, at least you didn't get the apology, but you did get the victory that you wanted, and I imagine it must feel somewhat validating that hopefully this will help to push sanity back into the workplace, right?
That's what we're hoping, and we're hoping that policies will be, these illegal policies will be removed across the board and into the public sector as well, because they're still there.
Well,
women and men are still being impacted by these policies.
Absolutely. Well, I'm all of all of you. Thank you so much for taking this case, because it's so sad that that's what it takes is to take these trusts to court to actually establish your rights. So thank you on behalf of anybody who believes in workers' rights and sanity and women's rights, and a big round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Statement here on the Darlington nurses' victory. A spokesman for County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust said, "We are taking time to review the judgment carefully and will comment further once we have had the opportunity to consider it in full." Asked on Thursday when she expected to publish trans guidance, Women and Equality Secretary Bridget Phillipson said, "I hope to do that as soon as I can. We did require certain additional information from the EHRC, so that has unfortunately slowed the process. Putting together the code of practice must be in a way that is responsible and follows all the proper processes. That's what I'm doing at the moment, making sure that we get it right." So unfortunately there's no apology to both of you, but again, thank you so much for coming in. Joined by Baroness Fox for all things about protecting free speech in the House of Lords. But before that, our studio audience will be quizzing our comedians on some crazy culture conundrums. See you in a couple of minutes.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told?
Good, because
because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests this evening are Cressida, Wetton, Steve and Alan. Look at this audience!
Look at
it's so cool,
Beautiful.
it's so exciting.
So shiny.
So shiny and happy. They've come because we're all going to go out and get a pint afterwards. So, you both well?
Yeah, no, all right.
Are we allowed to say Happy New Year? We've gone past that point, haven't we?
You're nearly saying Happy Chinese New Year if you leave it any later.
That's it. Happy Easter.
Oh, yeah. Happy tax year.
We've got Valentine's Day before that.
Oh, my
Is that a celebration?
You might have.
So, we're going to get some questions from our audience. Our first question is from Adik. Hey, Adik.
Hello. I have an exciting question to start with.
Is it red's your favourite colour?
No, just to be understatement, you know. Just
no, exactly.
Sit in the background.
No, it's good. I can spot you. Where is he? Oh, there he is. OK.
So my question is, does the NHS think incest is a good thing?
Does the NHS think that incest is a good thing? So, the NHS is now teaching midwives that the risks of congenital diseases with cousin marriages is exaggerated, and that marrying a relative is actually a good thing as it comes with economic benefits. However, figures show that 15% of cousin couples have affected children, which is believed to have cost the NHS billions every year to treat. By the way, when we say cost the NHS, we mean cost us. Cressida, obviously, you're attracted to your cousin. We've talked about this before. But you're not going to marry him, are you?
I'm not going to marry him.
You'll sleep with him, but not have children.
No, I've got one male cousin. Carl, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but it's just not like that.
It's not going to happen.
No, we're all supposed to think it's gross, and mostly we do. And it turns out our instincts might be right. I mean, they're happy with it. It's like, oh, it's only 85% of people... 85% of people get away with it, 15% have problems. That's not a small number. I wouldn't like those odds, you know? So my solution is we treat it the way we treat sugar. You know, people want to tax that, or smoking, tax it. Let's have a cousin tax. That's if you want to do it, you go for it, but you're going to pay.
You're going to pay, yeah. We shouldn't have to pay for your deformed child.
Pretty much.
OK. Sorry, didn't think I'd ever say those words aloud. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks for that. What a great way to set up coming to me as well. Do you know, I'm amazed that we now have to have the discussion. I remember in the 90s, this is how old I was, back in the 90s, we used to think that things like marrying your cousin or forcing women to wear certain things was wrong. How backwards we were. Turns out you've got to freshen up your ideas. I like the instinct. You know, we know it's wrong. For some reason, it feels a bit icky. And everyone's debating about the risk of this and congenital this, that and the other. No, just the ick. Can we not talk about the ick? Women talk about ick on TikTok about if a man wears shoes that don't match the belt, that gives him the ick. So what gives me the ick? Marrying someone who's related to you. It feels wrong in some way.
I suspect that some of those women who might feel the ick don't have much choice, unfortunately.
Well, the TikTok women you're talking about?
I'm not on...
No, I get it. This is about... Yeah, I'm not in favour of it, so I'm definitely not in favour of forcing someone into it. But the problem here is the NHS finding ways to rebrand it. They're not even calling it, like, inbred or incest. It's having same blood, isn't it? Yeah. They found a posh word to make it seem like it's not a bit dodge.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
No, it is wrong. And on a serious note, it has to be said, 2 children, I believe, a week, actually, die because of their parents being related. An NHS spokesperson said the NHS absolutely recognises the genetic risks of consanguine... Please say it. Consanguinity relationships, thank you. And where people consider entering into them, we offer referrals to genetic services so individuals understand the risks and can make informed decisions. Our next question is from Ryan.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Does Deborah Meaden need to start watching Free Speech Nation?
She sure does.
Yes.
Yes. So does Deborah Meaden need to start watching Free Speech Nation? Now, Deborah Meaden entered a row on X with GB News contributor Adam Brooks, who claimed expressing your beliefs can get you cancelled, sacked or even arrested. The Dragon's Den star responded by smugly asking for examples and was swiftly confronted with numerous cases of individuals whose lives were torn apart after exercising their right to free speech. So it was quite incredible to see this kind of play out online, and the examples
Deborah.
were just coming in and coming in. It was...
Of course they were. I mean, I think of her as somebody who's interested in what people think, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Market research. What market research is she doing? Or is she just reading stuff where... maybe she does need to start watching Free Speech Nation. I think she needs to watch more GB News.
Yeah.
And also, don't go after Adam Brooks. Come on.
Yeah, he's got the facts to back himself up, but he's not afraid to use it.
Apparently they've made friends now. That's his latest tweet. They've drawn a line under it.
That's good. I mean, maybe it just shows how much of a bubble people are in, where they kind of, until they... Maybe she's punctured the bubble, maybe she now still... She will start watching the show, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, I wouldn't criticise her for this at all, actually, because ordinarily we'll have stories where someone asks a question about migrants and the left gets upset. Well, you can't even say such a thing. And my free speech point of view would be, you can ask any question as long as you can listen to the answer, and the answer might be no. But in a sense, she asked a question. I'm sure she believed what she said when she said it. She didn't think there were examples. She's now been given loads of examples, and in some cases she's replied saying thanks. So, you know, she's actually done the thing.
In some cases, she also kind of was like, well, you didn't really lose your job, like to Maya Forstater and to other people who have really paid a price for standing up for...
But she's now been given new information she didn't have a handful of days ago. This is a good... I don't know, I see it as a good thing. This potentially opens up debate.
Well, what I think should happen is I'm going to send her a link to the past 4.5 years of Free Speech Nation, and then she can get caught up. And then she'll ask a question from the audience. That would be nice. So our next question is from Jeff.
Hi. How many husbands did Henry VIII have? I said husbands.
Yeah, well, how many husbands did Henry VIII have? So this is a transgender media personality who's been made and cast in an all-female play on Broadway about the wives of Henry VIII. Dylan Mulvaney has been given the role of Anne Boleyn in Six, which reimagines the medieval king's 6 wives as a pop group dedicated to raising the voices of women throughout history. So, an all-female cast, an all-female musical, not so all-female now.
All about the ladies
Yeah.
and Dylan Mulvaney. This is fascinating. Isn't it a shame for Bud Light that they did it and not... Because this is going to go down quite well, isn't it? It's in theatre land. So
I see.
I imagine Dylan is currently surrounded by people telling him this is the best thing. That probably happened with Bud Light as well in the beginning. Having said that, I'm sure there are parents of kids that might be into this who won't be that impressed. So it'll be interesting, won't it? Is it going to be a Bud Light II or not? I don't know.
Well, of course, because what he does, if you've seen him online, he does a sort of caricature of femininity, and of course the point of this musical is to be, strong women, to change the narrative from Henry VIII's wives being victims, and then suddenly you've got Dylan Mulvaney sort of da 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 da. Whatever. That's my Dylan. That's pretty good Dylan Mulvaney.
He's the worst person for woman face. He's a shocker. It's so insulting. Of course it is.
Not as convincing as some of the Instagram accounts that I follow, and that's a different story for a different time. No, this is one of those stories where I read it and I was like, of course, there's something innately wrong. All casting in musicals should be to gay people, and that's not where this story goes, is it? It's in a different direction. I think we've fallen for it again. If you just do the casting that you expect, no one even talks about this musical. You cast Dylan, all of a sudden it's in the newspapers. The whole thing seems like it's set up on that, right? Instead of just doing a different musical, it's a musical for all from a female perspective, from the point of view of the wives. I'm sure by the end of it, after receiving that lecture, you leave that musical just going, men are bad? There's been 2 hours of that, I imagine. And this is that kind of mindset where you can't write a musical that's just a musical. It has to be fighting for the underdog. Well, I absolutely love this casting. And it gets talked about. If you love it, you'll go and see it. If you don't love it, you will promote it further. We've fallen for it.
Oh, we fell for it. Stupid us. All right, well, look, our final question for the moment is from Anton. Don't mess it up.
Are Barbie fans happy about their new doll?
Oh, well done. Are Barbie fans happy about the new doll? So Mattel has released the new autistic Barbie, complete with a noise cancellation, communication tablet, noise-cancelling headphones and a fidget spinner. The doll also features off-centre eyes to represent autistic people's reluctance for eye contact, as well as extra bendy wrists to mimic the hand flapping some use to express themselves, or if it's a Jewish... we Jews tend to use our hands a lot. So, should be explained. What do you think about this? Do you have an autistic Barbie? Would you get one of those?
I don't have any Barbies.
Oh, OK.
I
really misunderstand
consider
women.
myself an adult. I don't know if they're making an adult Barbie yet.
I've got G.I. Joes.
Of course you have. Of course you have. It's a confusing one, isn't it? I mean, apparently this has been made with consultation with the autistic community, or
But they might have been really unhappy about it, but not know how to show it.
The jokes are just going to come, aren't they? I mean, I thought, is it meant for all children, or is this meant for autistic children? I believe they already have dolls called Warhammer figures. Autistic kids famously not interested in dolls, so I don't know who it's for.
That's a good idea. Autistic Warhammer.
That's
we just call it Warhammer. Yeah.
This is about representation, I think, the idea that you have to be representing the dolls you play with. I wasn't. There was no Action Man that was a poor person from the Midlands with a mum with emotional issues, and yet somehow I got through.
I bet there is now.
To be fair, well, Eagle Eye Action Man did have that kind of look, and we had that because you never know when the next row was starting, so we had that. But or it's to raise awareness. And find me a person who's not aware of autism. I don't think it's an issue that needs to be raised anymore. But it's offensive, isn't it? I mean, 10 years from now, this will be banned because it's taking the mickey, isn't it? It's just got, oh, look, we've given them hands that do this and their eyes. It's surely offensive. It is ripping the of autistic people. At some point, it'll get cancelled, and it should do.
Yeah. Well, I think they're also talking about doing a ADHD Barbie where you just pull the back and it just goes, I've got ADHD, I've got ADHD. Anyway,
the letters you're going to get now.
Tell me off for that one. Right, next on Free Speech Nation, what caused woke? Was it women? Find out. Find out.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Harry continues to impact parts of the Mediterranean, bringing in some wet and windy weather here. And actually, there's not a lot of sunshine to go around across parts of Europe. The best of the brightness across central and southern parts of Spain. Here's Storm Harry across the central Mediterranean, bringing in some strong winds, some heavy rain, and at times some thundery conditions. Perhaps a little bit brighter at times across parts of Greece. An improvement in conditions into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little change changes, a lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. So, for today's debate, I'm going to be asking, did women cause wokeness? Before we get started, let's have a look at some different approaches to the topic. Scarlett Maguire has written in the New Statesman that recent voting patterns of young women in the UK has shown that they are moving overwhelmingly towards the far left of politics. In 2024, nearly 1 in 4 18 to 24-year-old women voted for the Green Party. This stance has also been echoed by Elon Musk, who retweeted a report that found that the political ideology of women had moved radically leftward, not only in the UK, but across all Europe and the US especially, at a scale and speed with no modern precedent. This report explains this move is because of preset algorithms and biological hardware. So given this political movement, did women cause woke in the first place? Helen Andrews spoke on this on the Trigonometry podcast.
Has caused one specific particular problem, and that is wokeness. I read an article that someone else wrote that put forward a really simple, elegant thesis, which is that wokeness is simply feminine patterns of behavior applied to institutions where women had not been very well represented until recently. Women tend to be more consensus-focused, consensus-oriented. Men, when they're approaching a moral question, will ask, what are the facts? What are the rules? Whereas women will say, what are the relationships at play here? How can we make everybody happy?
So I'm now joined by the assistant editor of The Critic, Jo Bartosch, and author and women's rights activist Julia Long. Big round of applause, please. I totally admit it, Jo, I've been very clickbaity. Did women cause woke? It's just, if you are spending a lot of time online, this seems to be a narrative that's certainly been pushed over the last few years. It was women who caused woke. That's why we're at where we're at. That's why I want to actually have a proper conversation about it. Now, what are your first inclinations upon seeing what Helen Andrews says, that wokeness is like a female trait?
Oh, well, women are to blame for everything, aren't we? I mean, you know, that's a fairly sort of tired stereotype that gets trotted out. You know, it's the mother blaming, the woman blaming. I do think there is something to what she said about women, on average, at a population level, being more inclined to be agreeable. However, having said that, I think some of the sort of most outstanding opponents of transgenderism in the UK are also women. So
we had the Darlington nurses.
We did have the
earlier.
Darlington nurses, and you know, well, there's Julia Long, and there's J.K. Rowling, and you know, we've got some really powerful opponents, particularly when it comes to transgenderism, of woke ideology, who are women. I do think that there is something to be said about women becoming more conservative, perhaps when they start families. And to that degree, obviously, for whatever reasons, women are choosing not to start families so early. I think that's both economic pressures and also, frankly, because, you know, we can blame women all we want, but actually there are a lot of men out there who are getting immersed in pornography and video games, and frankly, who wants a father like that?
Well, don't speak to my kids. So, but yeah, sorry. So, Julia, I've read this article that Elon Musk reposted, which kind of talks about it being a myriad of factors. One of them being social media and algorithms, and pushing women in a certain way and men in a certain way, particularly towards pornography, but pushing women in a certain way in terms of consensus, and if those algorithms kind of taking them down a more far left path. Do you think there's any truth in that?
Well, I mean, obviously, the whole era of social media and the effect of algorithms like that, they have indisputable effects, you know, for everybody, you know, who's involved in social media in some way or another. But I think I'd rather just go back to this idea of do women cause wokeness, because I think there's a lot of kind of unexamined assumptions that go into that. So first of all, the idea that this whole thing of wokeness is this universally kind of bad thing, and it's been caused by women because women are, you know, we've got the taint of Eve upon us, we've got this kind of original sin upon us. And I think the trouble is, I very rarely use the term woke if I can avoid it, because I think it's like a great big wheelie bin that lots of things get thrown into. I mean, we live in a world of very real material inequalities, and I think to be alert to those and to want to do something about it is a good thing. I don't think there's anything bad about that, quite the opposite. But I think we get all these very legitimate issues and sort of social justice issues get thrown in with a load of nonsense, such as trans women are women, and, you know, things that are, you know, thoroughly regressive, and then it all gets labelled as woke. So I think we need to kind of be a bit careful in terms of what we're talking about. Obviously, this whole notion of, for a start, that wokeness is this bad thing and that women are responsible for it. As Joe said, I think it's just another version of blaming women. And if we look back at the original usage of the term woke, it goes back, you know, almost 100 years now to sort of African-American culture, where it was first used in blues, you know, blues songs, and then in the civil rights movement. And I don't think anyone would say that that's a bad thing, but I think it's been very much distorted, and now the idea that women are somehow to blame for this mishmash of things, I just think it's just a another misogynist trope.
So, because because another article that I believe we were talking about earlier was sort of talking about how equality actually goes back way before even woke really became a concept. It sort of almost originates in Christianity through time, and how this understanding of everybody being equal which is not something that comes from women at all. So we're now talking about like institutions that, like education, where 60% of people who work in education are women, and the impact that's kind of happened because it's also happened at the same time, seemingly, as what we've. I don't like the term woke either, but let's just say the last 10 years of madness. There is a coincidence, seemingly, or at least they ally with each other. Women have taken or have dominated these institutions, and we've seen the excesses of that. So I think, do you think it's reasonable at all for people to make a connection there?
To an extent. I think where I would differ, as I said, I do think that women are more inclined towards agreeableness. I don't think necessarily that what we're seeing in terms of the be kind and the weaponisation of empathy is actually about being kind at all. I think it's about status building, and I think it's a way that perhaps women build status. And I mean, you can look at any industry and find egregious examples of, for want of a better word, woke nonsense. You know, tech industry is just as bad as education. I don't think there's any industry that's been untouched by it. I suppose I'm going to stop there and let Julia take over.
OK, well, let me ask you one final thing then, Julia. The evidence shows, this article in the New Statesman, how the narrative has been men being radicalised towards the right. Facts of the matter show that men have actually remained relatively constant in terms of their political outlook, whereas it's women have had a massive shift, particularly young women. The argument goes with social media has seen a massive shift towards the left. Do you think that is an issue? Do you think that that is indicative of this being a female, being impacted by differently to men? Because this article doesn't say it's like a better or worse. It just says
Yeah, they were looking at the data, weren't they? Yeah. I would question what the argument they make about young men, because maybe in terms of like voting patterns, for example, maybe it hasn't changed as much as, you know, it might have been kind of hyped. But in terms of, you know, culture and the whole like online, you know, men going their own way, all of that, I do think that has definitely been an influence. And obviously, as you know, Joe is very well aware, the massive expansion of the porn industry and access to porn, like those aren't always captured along this kind of left-right axis. So I think young women are having to cope with the fallout of all that and the kind of implications and consequences for them of all of that. I think it's very understandable if we look at the young people's situation generally in terms of like their material situation, the employment situation, unaffordable housing, impossible to get a mortgage, you know, all of these kind of things. I can see why young women are turning to the left, but I think, unfortunately, the left is seriously letting them down.
But interestingly, men are not. Anyway, I think we can deduce that men and women are different, which we wouldn't have said 5 years ago. Anyway, thank you so much, Joe Bartosch and Julia Long, and a big round of applause. Baroness Claire Fox joins us in the studio. See you in a couple of minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My next guest, Baroness Claire Fox, has been fighting for free speech on the laws, opposing the controversial crime and policing bill that she says is attacking the fundamental right to protest. And we're also talking about hate speech and banning it. So joining me now is Claire Fox. Welcome to the show. Thanks, Scott. You made a couple of really important speeches this week in the House of Lords. One in particular that didn't seem very popular is this idea of banning hate speech. Because I think people think if you're banning hate speech, then that means you're for hate speech. But of course, that's not the case at all.
No, and the Crime and Policing Bill, like a lot of legislation at the moment, just adds on layer upon layer upon layer of more restrictions on our freedoms, and it's so frustrating. So this was an opportunity to say, why don't we, for once, look at the law and remove those elements of the law that's curtailing freedom and democratic discussion. And so that's why there was a couple of amendments by John Moynihan, Lord Moynihan, saying, get rid of the hate speech aspects that are stopping people talking about things that are what subjectively are described as hate, but very often are perfectly legitimate. And I would remind you that I've raised the Darlington nurses, who I was fangirling over before I came on, in the House of Lords, and people have called people like the Darlington nurses hateful bigots and transphobic bigots in the House of Lords. So, you know, this concept of hate is so promiscuously used, and when it comes to the law, it's led to a situation in which 30 people a day are being arrested for hate crime online, so let alone anything else.
So is there any chance of this actually going through?
Not a chance. Okay. But I tell you why it's important is because I think that we really have to keep reminding people that if we're going to say that we need the capacity in the build-up to an election to fight anything from anti-Semitism to fight against bigotry against any different groups, you need to have speech to do it. That's the disinfectant that can, you know, actually clean up a hateful society. Anything that actually empowers people to use the law to say, I interpret that as hate and send the police round knocking on your door, is going to lead to a fragmented, frightened society in which people are looking over their shoulders in case you get that knock at the door. And it's also leads to perverse outcomes, by the way, because aggravated offences, according to hate, can mean, and I used an example in one of the speeches, where some guy assaults and beats up members of his family. He actually got a suspended sentence for that, a community sentence, not sent to prison, because these days getting sent to prison is hard work. But however, he did get sent to prison. Why? Because he used apparently an aggravated racial slur when he was beating them up. I mean, that is the kind of madness we live in, and I do think that we need to shine a light on that, and I hope that future governments will change things.
We'll see. Of course, what's happening here, you have, on the other side of the world, you've got Australia, who are also trying to make more hate speech laws.
Well, actually, it's important, this, because in Australia, they've been inspired by the legislation in the UK to bring in, I know, they're kind of like, you know, saying, oh, it's like, oh, we'll do what the UK's done. But, I mean, this is where it gets morally difficult. Bondi Beach happens, slaughter. People are actually slaughtered and massacred because they're Jewish. So the government says, what can we do? And brings in a anti-Semitism and extremism hate crime piece of legislation. However, one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't mention radical Islam at all, even though the murderers were Islamists. And by the way, it's going to end up, guess who will suffer? Jewish people won't be able to say anything about that, and I've got to be quiet.
I've got to read just a Home Office statement review said the government will always protect the right to lawful protest and free speech, but will not tolerate individuals or groups who intimidate others, incite hatred or create disorder. Thank you for Baroness Fox. See you guys in a couple of minutes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes. A lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed boilers.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
There's plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including are Britain's classrooms being infected with anti-Semitism? Will Starmer introduce a social media ban for under-16s? And is US television finally standing up to political correctness? But first, let's get a news update from Bethany Elsie.
Josh, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 8 o'clock. NATO members have condemned Donald Trump's threat to impose further import tariffs unless the US is allowed to buy Greenland, saying a trade war over the territory undermines transatlantic relations. The UK and other European countries held an emergency meeting this afternoon and released a joint statement saying the US president's demands are completely wrong and that they risk a dangerous downward spiral. Trump has already imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU, and that will increase to 25% if he can't take over the Danish territory. The Shadow Home Secretary, Priti Patel, says the UK's position is that the future of Greenland should be up to its people and Denmark.
Number one is reiterate the strength of NATO and that alliance. That's important to our security and defence. We should speak with one voice and stand united when it comes to dealing with aggressors such as Russia, when it comes to our Arctic security. And then, of course, make the case, as always, we believe in open markets, that tariffs are completely counterproductive and it will hurt the people in America just like it would hurt the British people here.
It's reported the US administration is asking member states to pay $1 billion each if they want a seat on the international body which will oversee the rebuilding of Gaza. 60 nations have been invited to take up a 3-year membership on Donald Trump's Board of Peace, an initiative aimed at resolving conflicts in the Middle East and globally. But diplomats are warning it could undermine the work of the United Nations. So far, only Hungary has accepted the invitation. It's been reported 2 Labour ministers are ready to quit over David Lammy's plans to scrap some jury trials. The Justice Secretary has faced backlash from lawyers and MPs over the proposals, which will see jury trials dropped for offences carrying a prison sentence of 3 years or less. Carl Turner, a former Shadow Attorney General who's leading a fight against the plans, told The Telegraph 2 ministers have told him they will resign if the plans go ahead. But the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy says it's the only way to tackle the backlog in courts.
At the moment, justice delayed is justice denied for too many people, and we're not prepared to allow that to stand. If Carl Turner or others want to talk about alternatives to fixing our broken criminal justice system, we will listen. We're prepared to hear them, but so far, not a single person across the political system has been prepared to grip this, and we are.
And 4,500 properties in the Maidstone area of Kent and hundreds more in Tunbridge Wells have little to no water supply after an electrical fault at a treatment works and a burst main pipe. They're the latest problems to affect South East Water customers after days of similar disruption earlier this week. The company says the fault has now been fixed, but that'll take time for the pipes to refill. And in the meantime, it's opened bottled water stations. You're up to date. I'll have a news update for you at 9 o'clock. Now let's get back to Free Speech Nation.
Big round of applause. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. A Jewish MP was banned from visiting a school in his constituency amid fears his presence would inflame teachers. Labour MP Damien Egan's trip to Bristol Brunel Academy in September was cancelled after a campaign by far-left protesters from Bristol's National Education Union branch and its local Palestine Solidarity campaign group. The Bristol North East MP was barred because of safeguarding concerns after the activists, who claimed to be representing the views of teachers, parents and residents, highlighted his links to the Labour Friends of Israel group. Meanwhile, new polling has revealed that the number of schools marking Holocaust Memorial Day has halved since October 7th, 2023. Joining me now to discuss this is the writer and journalist Nicole Lampert and retired teacher Peter Block. Welcome to the show. Nicole, it all kind of kicked off when it came out that this MP, he'd been essentially barred from a school in his own constituency, yet you've been writing about this issue for quite a long time now.
Yeah, and the astonishing thing is that it actually happened in September, and it was dropped into the conversation by the communities minister. So if anyone could perhaps do something about it, it might be this person who's a Labour minister in a Labour government. But he kind of dropped it in almost as a kind of anecdote about, yeah, he knows how bad anti-Semitism is. And then it kind of took off in that everyone else was like, well, that's a bit outrageous. That, you know, that's really bad for democracy, where a local MP can't go somewhere just because he's Jewish and is the deputy chair of the Labour Friends of Israel. So suddenly it means that people are looking at the NEU and other unions and what the teachers are teaching in our schools.
That's it. Well, Peter, you're retired now, yes. I believe about 5 years ago, but you remained part of the union. Why did you do that?
Mainly for this issue. Over the past 5 years, I've seen a steady increase in this it's a sort of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel demonisation of Israel, with the pretense that that's got nothing to do with anti-Semitism, which obviously it has. And since the current Secretary General has been in office, it seems to have increased quite a bit. It's permeated right down to the classroom, which is a disgrace. I believe part of the Education Act of 1996 that there should be no divisive or biased teaching of religion in schools generally. Well, this is being breached all the time, and nothing very much seems to be happening about it. We have to keep flagging up this issue all the time. There are many people within the union who wonder what the union's got to do with Palestine anyway. The proportion of time at a conference spent on discussing Palestine with invariable hostile motions is out of all proportion to anything else. So there are many members who feel, why aren't we addressing, education issues, grassroots issues, of which there are many, but there's this fixation, this demonisation, this sort of neo-Marxist view that Israel has no right to exist, and this implicit support for Hamas, who are the only organisation who publicly declare a racist, genocidal policy that they want to eliminate Israel and all the Jews, and they tend to bypass that. And 4 years ago, when I actually managed to speak on the podium, and I was trying to just say that there are two sides to the problem in Israel. Let's talk about it. I got hounded off the stage. I wasn't allowed to finish the speech. And I said it was like being at a Nuremberg rally. And these teachers, and they're the ones that are going into our class to teach our young ones. So what we're trying to do is, at the very least, have a level playing field, educate the children. And this latest thing about reducing the number of schools that teach about the Holocaust is symptomatic of this blanket overriding Jewish sensibilities.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this came out today. You've written an article about it. And it seems like it's actually more than a half. It's 60%. It's gone down in the past year, the number of schools who previously had Holocaust Memorial Days or marked it somehow. Now that's gone down. And the most scary thing for me reading that was it was done because some people said it was because of a fear of backlash from parents. Now that is very worrying.
Yeah, I spoke to someone from the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust about a year ago about this and about what was going on. And the figure was in 23, so it's January the 27th, it marks the day that the liberation of Auschwitz. So in 2023, around 2,000 schools were marking it. They were grabbing the material from this charity. The following year, it was 1,200. Last year, it was about 800. And we don't know yet how many are going to be doing it this year, but I can presume less. And there are a few reasons, and one is that there's an idea that somehow either the Holocaust isn't real, or that it's propaganda and it's used for propaganda for Israel purposes. And then the other thing is that people are saying, well, if you're going to talk about the Holocaust and other genocides, which is something that happens, that they talk about the Holocaust and other genocides, then you have to talk about Gaza. So then you were getting things like Holocaust survivors talking about the Holocaust, being asked about the genocide in Gaza, the genocide, the non-genocide genocide. So schools who often they don't know much about the Holocaust, in that I had to tell my son's own history teacher the Holocaust is just about the eradication of the Jews, and the Nazis did other crimes that are not Holocaust. Because the important thing is that the Nazis and their intention to destroy the Jewish nation was a core ideology that from Mein Kampf and previously, and that was part of what helped them get into power. So it has to be separated from the other elements, although the Nazis were obviously just generally evil. But that's partly why we talk about it. And of course, the frightening thing is, this is all happening in a year where we've seen 20 Jewish people killed across the world, from Australia to Manchester to America. So we need Holocaust education. We need it properly done, and we're getting the exact opposite. So this, as Peter says, this adds to the problems we have in schools, where this should be used as a time to educate people about anti-Semitism, but instead it becomes too complex a subject, and so is just ignored.
So, Peter, you yourself, you've retired, or you've quit the NEU now, and I have friends who are Jewish and teachers who've also left the NEU. Is there any indication that they understand it, that they're going to actually tackle this issue?
They pay lip service, but really they have no... It's very top-down, the NEU, in its matters.
Can I just say something? I believe that 4 of the people who are on the board of the NEU are also on the help run the Palestine Solidarity Campaign.
Yes, absolutely. When I spoke on the auditorium, the whole of the executive sitting behind me, all in their revelling in their smugness, wearing the keffiyeh, I suppose they go home and have a falafel, and that makes them experts on Palestine. But somebody filmed it. It only became widely known because somebody in the audience filmed it. He came up to me afterwards and said, "Do you mind? I filmed it. Would you like a copy?" Blah, blah, blah. He said to me, "I'm so glad I heard the little bit that I did, because I had no idea about what was going on," which was pretty general. So you get all these people making their minds up. Yes, you know, the Free Palestine and whatever. The last time somebody came up to me with Free Palestine, I said, yes, Free Palestine from Hamas, and then people can talk.
Of course.
It's the ignorance. Even some of the teachers, they couldn't put Israel on a map, they've got no idea of the size, and certainly no idea of the history. And like most prejudice, it's born of ignorance. And that's what we need to address.
Well, this is it. It's born of ignorance, Nicole, but that ignorance is then being transmitted from teachers to students. And that's also incredibly terrifying. If the students themselves, we have another generation of potential hate coming through.
Exactly, and we're already seeing that in the universities, where you have openly anti-Zionist teaching in the universities, and now you're getting it in very subtle ways in the school. As Peter says, you're not meant to bring politics in, but there are plenty of teachers wearing keffiyehs or Palestine badges in the schools, even though they're not meant to. They still do, and that's dependent on the head teacher to say something about it. Or parents gave me just a few examples. For example, there was one non-Jewish parent that I spoke to, and he'd got in touch with UK Lawyers for Israel because he was so upset. His son came home upset. This was someone he and his son, they were pro-Israel, and in the English language class, an article was read out all about Israel genocide and apartheid state and all of this, and it wasn't even used as a kind of discussion piece. It was, how has this writer used this language to make their point? So it's very subtle. And another parent whose child was 9 was talking about how they were in an RE lesson. They were learning about King David, and it was David, and she'd written on the board, Palestine, he's from Palestine. So this is similar to what a teacher told me, which is one of her colleagues, the NEU rep at her school, said Israel doesn't exist. And the NEU showed me that. They showed me on a map that Israel doesn't exist. So this is what teachers are being taught by the union, then going into our classroom. And there's a little bit of Nazi-ness to it, in that this is, they are educating children to not recognise Israel, and sometimes even to go further and not recognise Judaism.
Yeah, and of course that's going to then come out in hate, and we've seen these examples of extreme anti-Semitism within schools.
Absolutely.
All connected to that. Is there any sense of optimism that finally there has been exposure. You've been on this very show before talking about this very issue. Nothing happened. Now we have a democratically elected MP not allowed, barred from their local school because essentially he's Jewish. And of course the other side would go, no, it's because he supports Israel. Well, that's 96% of Jews.
Yeah.
So do you think that finally we're actually going to see some action, or is it, as Peter says here, just going to be a lot of lip service?
I feel like there's going to be a lot of lip service. The Education Secretary has promised us a report, just as we're also having a report into anti-Semitism in the NHS. But she didn't mention the unions. And it's not just the NEU, it's the EIS in Scotland. Some would say that it's even worse than the NEU. And I spoke to a whistleblower from there, and he said he's been saying to his colleagues in the union, we are anti-Semites. This is an anti-Semitic union. So until the unions are addressed, that's not going to work. You know, the schools, there are myriad problems, and some of it is there's plenty of bullying of Jewish children going on in schools, and sometimes that's coming from home. But what we should be looking at is where it's coming from the teachers, and we can only do that when we look at the teaching unions, and I can't see the Labour government willing to tackle this.
OK, well, a spokesperson for Bristol Brunel Academy said on the evening before Mr Egan's scheduled visit, we were made aware of plans for a public protest outside the school that would coincide with the end of the school day. We opted to postpone his visit to ensure everyone would continue to feel safe and to prevent any disruption to our students' learning. We have remained in contact with Mr Egan, and an alternative date for his visit was arranged some time ago. We have also been in contact with the police and followed their advice. An NEU spokesperson said the NEU is an anti-racist organisation and it is not acceptable for Jewish members of any member to feel the union is not a safe space. Teachers correctly have a legal obligation to remain impartial when discussing events or issues in schools and colleges. So, some breaking news before we move on. Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament for Romford, Andrew Rosendale, has today joined Reform UK. Rosendale, who also previously served as Shadow Minister for Home Affairs between 2007 and 2010, has joined Reform UK, with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage citing the Conservative Party's hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. The Romford MP had been a member of the Conservatives since he was 14, as the second Member of Parliament to join Reform UK this week, following Robert Jenrick's defection on Thursday. Next on Free Speech Nation, our audience quizzes comedians on culture conundrums. Before we go, big round of applause for our two guests, Nicole.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So, before breaking news, Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament for Romford, Andrew Rosendale, has today joined Reform UK. Rosendale, who also previously served as Shadow Minister for Home Affairs between 2007 and 2010, has joined Reform UK, with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage citing the Conservative Party's hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. The Romford MP had been a member of the Conservatives since he was 14 and is the second Member of Parliament to join Reform this week, following Robert Jenrick's defection on Thursday. So, when we announced that, there was a bit of applause from our audience, who seemed very happy. Do you happen to support Reform UK?
I do, because they
Actually, will you pass the mic? Sorry, just...
Yeah, I do, because I think I've always been centre-right. It's just that everything has moved so far left. And it's interesting that when they are criticised, it never seems to be on policy. They're just, you know, people just accuse them of, you know, like schoolyard, you know, name slinging and derogatory remarks, and yet the actual policies they have, that never seems to even come into the equation.
And what do you think? Do you think this is obviously a blow for Kemi Badenoch? Losing Jenrick, he's obviously a massively high-profile figure, but so soon to lose another one of her MPs, surely that's going to hurt.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Reform UK have been criticised on is the lack of experience of government, quite rightly, because they're a new party. So I think, to a certain extent, we do need experienced people coming into the party. But I also agree that when they've said they're going to put the drawbridge up in May, no more Tory defections, I think that is important. Otherwise, you end up just appearing like you're just taking anyone.
Well, that was a clever bit of politics. I mean, Cressida, there is a danger, of course, too many Tories going into reform, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're in a sense, you're right, they can't win. The appeal is it's a new party, it's a fresh start in theory, and then they get accused of not having any policy, not having any experience, so they start bringing people in. Obviously, Kruger was like I think that was kind of a win. That looks good. But they can't have everybody. I don't think Nadine Zahawi has been as much of a win. Jenrick, certainly. But now another one. So they're just coming a bit thick and fast, aren't they? It doesn't feel like there's much of a selection process.
Well, I mean, Steve, are you going to buy... What shade blue tie are you going to buy?
That's all they're doing, isn't it? Yeah, you could do this in Photoshop. But eventually, it's going too far, isn't it? I mean, the accusation there's no experience, you fill that in by going, look what we've done in all the councils. What you don't do is let's recruit the guys who lost the last election. They're not the people to fight the next one, are they? Especially when it's... The battle within the right is going to be Tories and Reform. And if they're the same people... You'll be able to find clips of the latest defectee saying, what this nation needs is a strong Conservative opposition. Cut to, same person, same shirt, different banner on the Aston down the bottom. This needs a strong Reform, are the only ones who possibly could be the opposition.
Yeah.
So it's going to look like, you know, the new Tories, the brand new Tories, you know, the consecutives.
Yes, well, this is the day. Do you have any questions from the audience? I mean, this is sort of breaking news. Are you excited, interested? Do you think this is the end of the Tories, even?
Well, I'm disappointed about the Tories, how they brought the country after 14 years in government. So, I did hope that... I voted for Boris Johnson just for the Jeremy Corbyn not coming into the power. But it actually came out of it that actually it is disappointing that the Tories brought the country down, which is really, really heartbreaking for me. So going to Reform, basically, is just the Tories should be originally should be. I don't think that Toryism reform is something special. It's just basically pure Tories. But that's, I guess, what the best we can have in this country. But that's disappointing.
Isn't there an issue, though, that the same people that you've just said the last 14 years and how have they failed, it's the same people who failed it. They'll be the same, different name on the party, different name on the rosette. But if it's the same person, do you not think it's the same 14 years of failure?
Well, they have maybe mea culpa. The experience, you know, if you do mistakes, you know what to correct. So maybe that's what I'm hoping.
But you could say that of the Tories.
Well, fair enough. But I feel the reform are maybe the corrected Tories. That's my hope. But if I may be mistaken.
If anybody's got a question, please pass the mic or make an indication for the mic. But Cressida, do you think that this is actually some sort of 4D chess by Kemi Badenoch? She's going, I want you to go over to the Tories and then we're going to sort of gradually subsume them.
You think she's going to be next? I think she's having probably a very difficult week. I think that the right should all come together, just not now. It's too soon. Like, keep fighting the battles for a few more years because they're holding each other's feet to the fire, right? And then maybe, I don't know, in 2 or 3 years' time, come together, form some new super party. But at the moment, I don't think it's the right time. OK. Any reactions from the audience? What do you think about this?
I think we've got a problem now where reform need to bring in as much knowledge and experience as possible, but not from one source, because that's the way it seems to be going at the moment. We've got to bring in some of the Greens, some of the Labour.
No, not some of the Congress.
Like it or not, you know, they need as much experience.
You said knowledge.
As much experience of Parliament and of running a government to do it.
Well, in that case, what do you think about this supposed Labour MP who's going to defect in the next few days?
Well, there's a lot of rumour about who they are, when it's going to be, but I'll wait and see.
So, have we got another question?
Thanks. I've got some friends online who say that after what Mr Jenrick did this week, they said, why should we ever trust this man again? That they're Conservative voters. And I think it's a good question myself. I'm not political. I watched the whole thing. But he doesn't come across covered in roses according to my entire population.
Yes, well, that's a good point. What do you think about that, Cressida?
Well, he would probably say that he left because he is trustworthy and he couldn't cope with things the way they were. Because, you know, he's got a history of speaking up, hasn't he? But they're all politicians, aren't they? I feel fairly warm towards Robert Jenrick because of what he's got to say. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think the thing about Jenrick was that he was very clever to get out of the last government because sort of ahead of time, because he could see that there were issues.
Yeah, so
he could see that they weren't acting.
Exactly. Every time somebody goes on about the 14 years, he's kind of got a bit of a pass compared to some of his colleagues.
Yeah. Is there anyone in particular you think that the reform would be particularly good to have, or anybody you think should? You know, Zach Plansky.
That would be fascinating. Do you know, I mean, yes, there will be some people, the broad church that is the Labour Party, the ones that are the furthest away from the Your Party and the Greens, would be interesting recruits, because then you could stop making it seem so tribal and actually make it seem like there's political breadth to it. But I don't think you need the expertise. Everyone says, like, they don't have any expertise of running government. Well, every single time we have an election, you can vote for a new MP who's never been an MP before. They don't have experience. This is why we have the civil service. Cue people saying blob. But the point is that they know how to do things, if they actually listen to the instructions. You don't vote for a politician because of their experience. You've got to get a fresh one at some stage.
OK, well, look, we have an order. Oh, but then we have one more question. Yes, please.
Well, it's the expertise that's the problem, isn't it? I think that's the main thing.
I think that's what it is. I think their policies, I think a lot of people can agree that there needs to be certain things fixed within the country, but it's whether we're going to get the right parties actually going to be able to act upon it and get those decisions implemented, I guess. So, look, we have an audience here. Might as well use you. Let's have a little straw poll. If you wouldn't mind putting your hands up, let's see what percentage of you think that this is a good decision. This is good for the Reform Party, this latest defection. So please put your hands up now. I know. Yes, so the majority of you do, but at the back, you feel... Well, let's have, if you wouldn't mind passing the microphone and say why you... Oh, no, you don't want to speak? No, fine. OK, well, fine, fair enough. So, yes, the majority of you obviously feel this is good for reform. Anybody want to say why you think it's a bad idea? Oh yes, hello.
White man going to a party.
What's wrong with smart white men?
Smug.
Smug. What's wrong with smug white men? Would you mind standing up, actually, if that's okay? As a non-smug white woman.
I don't know. It's tainted by I don't know, as a sort of a reek of as you say, like failure of the people that failed in the last election, and now they're just going over to. I'd like to see some fresh blood.
Yes.
Some new people.
But this is the question, isn't it? Is like, how do they get fresh blood, and how do the voters know that they're competent fresh blood?
Yeah,
as opposed to people who are just coming into politics for the first time. It's a really tough decision, I think, the audience that the British public have to make.
Well, I think if you look at the Labour Party and the fact that they've had a lot of fresh blood and they're failing as well, so it's kind of
Exactly. What do you think about a Labour MP defecting to?
I'd be interested to find out who it is. Whether
you want to see if they're white first, don't you?
No, it doesn't. I just think it would be nice to have a bit more diversity in reform. I mean, they have got some diverse members, and it is really good. But I just think maybe a bit more diversity, as in like party, Labour, Liberals. But I appreciate that's not going to be easy to get, is it? But
no, but I think that's an interesting point. Is that it isn't. Of course, the narrative would be that reform are right or far right, the people who are very much against them. But the fact that the more left-wing, traditionally left-wing people who will defect to them shows that actually these issues about immigration aren't actually isn't a far-right issue. For many people, it's about the survival of the country.
I think it belittles it by saying it's far left, far right.
Yeah.
I think that it's just ordinary people that just want to have a change, don't they? They want to believe that somebody is going to listen to them, and I think if they listen to them, then they'll vote for them. That's the bit that.
Also, isn't it? It's not just this one linear left-right. There's socially and economically left-right. So you've got a plane of two different things there. And what the Labour Party have done, they've moved away from people who are socially left-wing. So there's an issue. Economically, if you're in London, you're doing all right. If you're an Islington MP, you're not really worried about poor people, but you love the idea of identity politics, and that's the area that you've left vacant. Reform could go in there, which means they'd be representing some traditionally left-wing points of view.
Yeah, no. I mean, do you think that, Cressida, that this is everybody's saying, hey, the right should get together, but really what we're seeing actually is just the right moving to one side, to the other party. So this isn't going to...
You think the right is becoming the left?
No, the right's becoming the right. It's very, very confusing, isn't it?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, I'm just saying that everybody's saying that we want to see unification on the right.
Yeah.
But really what we're seeing is just the right going, oh, yeah, I'm just going to step over here to the right.
Well, maybe, but of course we know there's lots of people in the north now, in areas that would have traditionally been Labour. People like my granddad, who was a coal miner, I don't think he'd be very impressed with Keir Starmer. I imagine maybe he might have gone over to Reform if he was still with us.
Yeah.
So...
No, it's going to be... It sort of feels like it's accelerating. And, of course, having this this deadline... I mean, do you really think that afterwards that Nigel Farage wouldn't accept another big hitter from...
Well, kind of a big hitter and Andrew Rosendale, not words that normally go together in a sentence, are they? I used to work a lot in Romford, so I'm kind of aware of him. But other than that, I wouldn't have heard of this guy.
Well, OK, what about... Let's have a last... What about the audience? How would you feel if Suella Braverman, if she went to...
She has to.
Yeah. Well, yes, woman in the front, you've...
Wow, yeah, they'd be brilliant. Yeah.
You'd be brilliant. OK.
Not a smug white man, so I guess you're happy.
She may, however, be smug, I don't know.
That's true. It's all about the colour.
Well, that's it. Well, actually, Suella's here, and she has an announcement that she wants to make. Well, OK, breaking news. We were here. Lovely to have the audience and have your feedback. Thank you so much. Coming up after the break on Free Speech Nation, we have Silkie, Carlo from Big Brother Watch to talk about Sir Keir Starmer's latest policy of banning social media for under 16s. See you in a couple of minutes.
dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Storm Harry continues to impact parts of the Mediterranean, bringing in some wet and windy weather here. And actually, there's not a lot of sunshine to go around across parts of Europe. The best of the brightness across central and southern parts of Spain. Here's Storm Harry across the central Mediterranean, bringing in some strong winds, some heavy rain, and at times some thundery conditions. Perhaps a little bit brighter at times across parts of Greece. An improvement in conditions into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches in places, but cloudier skies across western Scotland, down into Northern Ireland with outbreaks of rain here. A gloomy start to the day for much of England and Wales as well, with patchy rain and drizzle, though some sunshine for western Wales, down into Cornwall to start the morning. A few brighter breaks towards southeast England as well. And then through the day, very little changes. A lot of cloud across the UK. Weather fronts are slow moving, so rain persistent through the day across much of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, though sunshine holding on across central areas. Elsewhere, generally cloudy with rain and drizzle and hill fog, and temperatures similar to the last few days, generally between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. So near average, just feeling on the chilly side where you are stuck under the cloud and rain all day. On Tuesday, still a lot of cloud around, but I'm hopeful there'll be a few more brighter breaks for a time before the next weather system brings heavier rain and some stronger winds into western parts of the UK, and then generally turning wetter and windier as we move through the week, and temperatures, particularly in the south, above average.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Sir Keir Starmer is set to impose a social media ban on under-16s, despite previously expressing scepticism about copying Australian age restrictions that could lead teenagers onto less regulated sites. More than 60 Labour MPs have now written to the Prime Minister urging him to back the ban. Joining me now to discuss this is the director of Big Brother Watch, Silkie, Carlo. Round of applause, please. Silkie, you wrote a great piece in The Telegraph that explained why there are issues here, because I think it actually seems like a remarkably popular proposal, really. That they're saying this is going to be an open vote. You've got Kemi Badenoch. She's got probably some other issues to think about at the moment, but she's coming behind it. You've got Andy Berman. So, and of course, this is on the back of what's happened in Australia. But you raised some really interesting points, if you wouldn't mind sharing with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy being on the side of an argument where the majority of the public are on the other side. But I think where there is the agreement is that we are all worried about young people being glued to their phones and being ceaselessly online, and sometimes the harmful effects for some of the things that they see. You know, all information is out there. There's horrible things, amazing things, and it's risky. And there are algorithms that can be addictive and that can be negative. So I think actually, whether you're in favour of a government ban or against a government ban, everyone is probably in broad agreement about the nature of the problem. But a government ban won't work. I mean, that's one reason that a lot of people
Why do you think it won't work?
Because young people will circumvent it. That's already happening in Australia. It's nigh on impossible. It's no more likely to stop young people going onto the websites they want to go on than ID checks when, you know, in the noughties, when I was a teenager, stopped us smoking, drinking, clubbing. I'm afraid it all happened. And, you know, it's about, I think, teaching young people to do things in the right way and safely. But one thing is for sure, very, very, very few kids are going to be stopped from getting on social media sites. And just the concept of that some parents think that the government is more likely to be able to parent their child in that way than they can, I find quite striking and quite disturbing. And I do have to say, you know, and what I said in my Telegraph piece is the uncomfortable truth, I think, is that a lot of parents, frankly, need to step up, and some parents want to delegate that responsibility externally. They want the social media companies to wrap their children in cotton wool and create safe environments for them, and they want the government to ban things on the phone. You know, if you can't in your own household keep an eye on what your child is doing, I'm afraid the government won't be able to do it for you. But what really concerns me about this as a policy is that, as I said, the idea of a ban, it doesn't really exist. When it touches reality, it just doesn't exist. What it does mean is ID checks, digital ID checks for all of us, of all ages, because the only way you can enforce this is by checking everyone's identity and everyone's age when they sign up to a platform. And that means the death of anonymity online and the potential for a huge amount more surveillance and data collection about all of us.
So it's sort of digital ID via the back door, because the point that you made was, in order to ensure that children are not, or under 16s are not on the sites, then you have to then ensure that adults are, and they do that by providing ID, which of course then the social media companies will hold, and potentially the government, right?
They could do. There's multiple ways in which it can work. So, you know, essentially what we're seeing lots of in Australia, for example, is you can use a government ID. So that's a passport or a driving licence. A passport. I mean, this is stuff of, like, authoritarian nightmares when the internet was young and we all thought it was this explosion of freedom and access to information, and you can be anonymous and you can, you know, it's the biggest library that the universe could ever conceive. And now you need a passport to go online because the government requires it. You know, that's not the free vision of the internet that any of us had. And of course, I think, depending on how the government goes about this, if they go about it, you can have passports and driving licences. You can also have facial recognition checks, which is more intrusive in some ways, or it can be, because that's your biometric data. That's like your DNA.
And you need to be able, then the argument goes that you need anonymous accounts on social media, certainly to be able to talk. Like, if you see something like in Iran, if they don't have that ability to do that, then information is not getting out there.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, not just in Iran as well. I mean, in this country, I think in democratic countries, you know, all around the world, particularly obviously in situations like that, but actually everywhere, we need to have anonymity in order to have free speech. And, you know, I'm sure many of you probably agree, some of my favourite accounts online are anonymous accounts. And at a time when we do have culture wars and big controversial public debates and witch hunts, frankly, and on some topics, you need people to be able to say anonymously, this happened in my workplace, this is happening in my school, I actually truly feel like this. Things that you can't say if you've had to sign up to a platform with your driving licence or a passport.
So what reaction have you had to your article, being the one person who's taken a stand and said, actually, we should wait here? Do you think that that MPs are going to listen to that add the perspective? Because it feels very much like they're going, yippee, this is going to solve all of our problems.
This is a really, really interesting one, and it's one to watch this week. I'm certainly one of the only voices that has made not only a practical argument, but a kind of libertarian one, I suppose, or one that centres civil liberties and privacy and free speech. But you even have the likes of the NSPCC and the Molly Rose Foundation, who are against this because they recognise it won't work and that it will drive young people to go onto the internet and onto these social media platforms in other ways, or go onto less regulated sites where they will have a very different experience. So you've got really big lobbies on both sides with very different points of view, but it's interesting to see if this particular momentum for the ban catches wind, even though it's a terrible idea and it won't work and it has massive ramifications for all of us. Just want everyone watching to bear in mind, you will be needing to sign up to your social media platforms with your ID. You know, if you're supporting this, that is what you're saying you're prepared to do.
Yeah, well, it's as you say, it's something that's going to run and run. I think the people are going to realise these points that you're making, how prevalent they are. And I just want to say to my kids at home, stop watching, get off Twitter, please, at the moment, or X. A big round of applause, please, for the director. A big round of applause, Silkie, Carlo. Just before we head to the break, a recap of this evening's breaking news. Another Tory has defected to Reform UK. Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament for Romford, Andrew Rosendale, has today joined Reform UK. Rosendale has cited the Conservative Party's hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. The Romford MP had been a member of the Conservatives since he was 14 and is the second Member of Parliament to join Reform UK this week, following Robert Jenrick's defection on Thursday. Next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be joined by the legend that is the critical drinker. See you in 2 minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Christianity is on the rise in Britain, with the younger generation said to be the driving force. It's great, isn't it? In an effort to preserve the UK's cultural and religious heritage. New polling by a Tier Fund also found that 45% of British adults are planning to attend church this Christmas, which is a sharp rise from recent years. But what other factors might be driving this renewal in faith? Joining me now is the wonderful parliamentary sketch writer, Quentin Lett. Quentin, really good to see you. Thank you for coming on. A brilliant piece in today's Daily Mail. Read every word of it, found myself nodding along. Tell me more about what you've written, why you've written it, and what's happening with Christianity in this country.
Well, good afternoon, Dawn. I would start with that poll that you've just been mentioning. And it said that 45% of adults are intending to go to, this is what it found, 45% of adults intending to go to a service at church this Christmas. But a more interesting part of that poll is that when you look at the younger people, Gen Z, 60% of them are intending, and it's many, many fewer, it's half the number for us baby boomers and the silent generation who are older than us. So that suggests, does it not, that something is stirring in the pews. And there was some prize in some senior church circles recently when Tommy Robinson, a right-wing politician, organised a carol service in Whitehall. Some of the bishops got very twitchy about this, but it does seem anecdotally that a lot of this growth in the church-going is, as you mentioned earlier, young men, but also perfectly possible that quite a lot of them are right-wing. Now, this is presenting the Church of England, which in recent years has started to look a little bit like the Liberal Democrat Party at prayer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So a quick recap of this evening's breaking news. Now the Tory has defected to Reform UK. Conservative Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and MP for Romford, Andrew Rosendale, has today joined Reform UK. He cited the Tories' hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. So we're going to go straight now to the legend that is the critical drinker. He's there. He's on there. Hello, critical drinker. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy because Star Wars might be saved, a beloved series of films. Do you think we've got the head producer, Kathleen? She has now left, I believe, the Star Wars franchise. Are you optimistic that it can be healed, or is it forever tainted?
I think it's forever tainted at this point. Under her stewardship, they've taken Star Wars from one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons in our history to a bunch of largely irrelevant TV shows on a not particularly successful streaming service. I don't know how you even begin to come back from something like that.
No, and then we also had this week the launch of Starfleet Academy, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, something as a Trekkie, something I really looked forward to for decades. And I couldn't watch the whole thing because it made me vomit. But some of the clips were just unbelievable. And it didn't get, like, the viewer, it did not do very well. That's fair to say, right?
No, they released the first episode onto YouTube for free to try and get some interest, some support for it. It got 1,300 live viewers. So one of my good friends, Gary, who runs a YouTube channel called Nerdrotic, he put a live stream up of just a Spock action figure sitting in a chair with nothing going on, and that got 3 times as many live viewers as Starfleet Academy. That shows you how this franchise is just completely dead.
And isn't it sort of $10 million an episode?
I believe it is, yes.
And you've got a character wearing glasses. There is one sort of bright light in the TV show Landsman, if anybody's watched it, but they have a character there. Unfortunately, we can't show the clip for time, but the character there calls out their sort of non-binary flatmate, which is kind of a big deal on American TV for them to just sort of blatantly just go, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, not something you would see on most networks, but Taylor Sheridan, I guess, is more based than most TV producers, and I think he's not afraid to call stuff like that out. I mean, it's very much low-hanging fruit at this point. It's the kind of thing that's very easy for people to mock if they're that way inclined, but he went ahead and did it anyway, so, you know, fair enough.
All right, well, look, we'll take what we can get. Thank you very much for joining us, Critical Drinker. And thank you at home for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Thank you to the audience. Give yourselves a big round of applause. If you want to be in the audience, you know how to do so. You can find the tickets, join us for free. And now we're going to go to Alex. Alex, hope you're well. What is on your show?
Thank you very much, Josh. Yeah, well, the world's gone quackers today, hasn't it? Apparently, Lisa Nandy's been out calling Reform UK, or at least alluding to the fact they might be a fascist party. We'll be digging into that. And, of course, a sensational defection, a second defection in the space of a week. Andrew Rosendale, MP, the MP for Romford, has defected to Reform UK. We'll be digging into that and so much more on my show tonight. I've got some really interesting guests and news you haven't heard anywhere else today. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and there's very little change over the next few days. There'll be a lot of cloud around. Tonight we could see some frost where skies clear in places, but most places will be frost-free. Generally, a lot of cloud across the UK. This weather front continues to give some rain and drizzle. Another one coming in from the west later to give some spells of rain across Northern Ireland. But for most, a damp evening to come overnight, a lot of cloud around. There'll be some breaks from time to time across parts of southeast East England, western fringes of England and Wales, and more particularly northern Scotland, where temperatures here could fall below freezing to allow a patchy frost. But with a lot of cloud around and murky conditions, temperatures hovering between 4 and 6 degrees. So Monday morning for most will be a cloudy start. However, across northern Scotland, some sunshine here, a frosty picture, some fog patches